What's up, y'all? I am Darren Lewis. I am the program manager with the Southern California Black Worker Hub for regional organizing. And Happy New Year, family, and welcome back to the first iteration and the first installment of our Echo Black Voices Power and Pathways education series tonight. A little bit about our hub. Our hub is essentially a coalition of Black worker centers and other Black-led organizations in the Southern California region, and we come together collectively to move political work together for Black workers, particularly. We can't do this amazing work without like some amazing money and resources and support. So shout out to the state agencies that we closely collaborate with. So we have the Department of Industrial Relations that we work closely with to bring you this education. We also work with other state agencies like LCO, which is the Labor's Commissioner's Office, the Civil Rights Department, and a ton of others. And you can go to the next one, Melissa. And of course, we couldn't do this regional work, like I said, without our worker centers and overall our CWAP partners, which I'll get a little bit into CWAP here in a minute. But I want to shout out to all of our CWAP partners who are on the call today. So all the worker centers, San Diego, Inland Empire, Long Beach, High Desert, LA. I feel like Whitney Houston, Bobby Whitney, like literally shouting them all out, like all of y'all. And of course, our other perspective and new CWAP partners who are joining us this year, Demo Chicks, OFA, UCLA, the Six, Black Women for Wellness returning again. Without you all, without this brilliant and amazing community effort, we couldn't move the work in the way in which we do. So I thank you to everyone who came back out. I'm glad we made it through this year and we go keep on making some pathways and education for Black workers. You go ahead to the next slide. All right, before I turn it over, a little bit about Echo Black Voices. Echo Black Voices is a campaign that we kicked off with, I want to say about 2 years ago with 3.0. Last year for 4.0, we did a whole iteration where every month we taught Black workers about different workplace violations each month. This year we came together and said, let's look at the evaluations and the feedback we got from last year, and Black workers were asking for different pathway options. So what we did was created this iteration 5.0 to focus on access for workers who are having barriers to employment and pathways. So what are the different industry specific organizations and unions out there that can provide us Black workers with some kind of track to get us into desirable jobs. And so we have been working hard all last year and this year to collaborate with some more amazing unions and industry specific orgs. And without further ado, today we are bringing you two amazing speakers. The first one is Anthony Farby from SEIU USWW. He is the secretary treasurer working specifically in that union to get Black workers and other workers connected to security jobs. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Anthony to come in and take it away. Do your thing, brother.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Darren. Really appreciate the introduction. And I want to give a shout out to the Black Percenter Hub for hosting us today. This is the first event for the year, and I'm really excited for being here. And I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We are in some interesting times in this country, and I think that us tonight, we really want to talk about not only pathways for Black workers to be employed, but also education around what is happening in the country with all of the agency enforcement and the actions that are taking place by them. So I want to thank you all for being here and thank the hub for bringing us together. My name is Anton Farmby. I am the Secretary Treasurer of SEIU, United Service Workers West. We are a union here in California that represent the private sector of property service workers, which means that we represent janitors, security officers, folks that work at the airport, the people you see at all of the stadiums and arenas, whether that's Disneyland, Crypto, Petco Park, Angel Stadiums, SoFi. More than likely, those are our folks. And we also represent the folks who kind of cook and prepare your food if you're going to any of the Los Angeles County hospitals. So we have about 50,000 members in our union, hardworking folks that go to work every day trying to make it like each and every one of us. My union is one local of 50,000 out of about 700,000 members here in California. We're the largest union in the state. The span goes across healthcare, public sector, and private sector. But for the purposes of tonight, we're going to talk about security officers. So before I jump in, I want to give you a little bit of context about who security officers are. We're going to talk about what are the standards and the fights and in the engagement that we had to get to where we are. We want to share some information for folks if you're interested in becoming a security officer in terms of how to do that. And then we want to talk about the importance of the collaboration that we have with some of the partners that Darren mentioned at the beginning of the program. So the journey of security officers took place in the early 2000s, specifically here in Los Angeles. This workforce at the time was about maybe 75% African American, right? These are the folks who you see that work in the high-rise buildings up and down, up throughout Los Angeles, California, that work in all of the commercial buildings, who you see that kind of directs you what floor you're going to, what elevator you need to take, the folks that do the patrol outside of the buildings. This is the first point of contact of folks who you see when you walk into any commercial office building up and down the state. A group of workers came together specifically in Los Angeles around 2001 and decided that they wanted to do something about changing their work environment in Los Angeles. At the time, folks were making minimum wage. They had multiple bosses. They had their supervisor, and then they had the property manager, and then they had tenants, all kind of telling them what to do. There was no health care. In order for you to get paid for holidays, you had to work on those holidays. So it was a very, very tough time for security officers in the early 2000s. And there was a meeting that took place with a couple of hundred of them that said that they wanted to make a change. And one of the changes that they wanted to make was to form a union because they were non-union. There was only one, at the time, only one unionized workforce for security officers in the state, which was at the time in San Francisco. So these officers came together and decided that they wanted to do something. So they organized each other and they started talking to each other and talking about the things that they wanted to change. And from that meeting in 2001, all the way up until 2005, they were fighting to get what is described as union recognition, meaning that they would go to their employers collectively and demand that they wanted to negotiate the terms of a collective bargaining agreement or a contract in the workplace. Now, these owners and these managers and the folks who own these commercial office buildings did not want the security officers to form a union. And I think each and every one of you all on this call, on this Zoom, knows why. It was a power issue, right? These were folks who they can tell what to do, when to do it, how to do it, without having to deal with the union. And so what ended up happening is that these officers ended up talking about their issues at their churches and their neighborhoods, with community partners, with faith-based organizations around supporting them in their efforts to form a union. And the Black community in Los Angeles came behind them full force supporting their efforts to form their union. It took 5 years for that to happen. 5 years for them to get recognized as a union, which says a lot about resilience, perseverance, determination, the spirit to fight, all of those things, right? And so from 2001 at that first meeting all the way up until 2005, the Black community was there. They was there doing the marches. They was there doing the petition drive. They was there civil disobedience. We had several faith-based and community partners that were arrested through civil disobedience in support of the security officer. And so I really want to just take a point of personal privilege to thank the Black community and being forever grateful for the support of the work of the security officers to form their union. And in 2005, we began the process of winning our first union contract, which took place in 2008. And so, in the larger schemes of things, the unionized security industry is fairly young. Our first contract was in 2008. And you can imagine the feeling of exuberance, excitement that folks were feeling to have a voice in the workplace by forming their union. They went from minimum wage at the time to about 10.50 an hour. They were eligible for not only health care for themselves, but also for their families. They ended up winning holidays without having to work and get paid for them. They ended up having a process where they can actually speak on the job and talk to management around issues of concerns, right? And so it was a huge shift in the industry, which created for better jobs, better opportunities for Black folks in Los Angeles. And I say Black folks because it was not completely a Black industry, but it was a majority, predominantly Black. It was like 75% at the time of Black folks. So over time, since 2008, I have been the director of the security division in the union, making sure that we fight for our members every single day in the workplace, but also raising the standards to have a better contract to make sure that they don't get left behind in this underground economy. And in 2017, I remember this very vividly. We kicked off our campaign for a new contract that was labeled Black Worker Justice because we did not want to go in to talk about wages. We did not want to talk about healthcare. We did not want to talk about paid time off. We wanted to talk about what it meant to be a Black working security officer in Los Angeles. That was the main goal. That was the focus. And those folks did not want to talk about it. But we forced that question because we were not going to engage in negotiations talking about the nickels and dimes that really wasn't going to make a difference in the lives of these security officers. We wanted to talk about the despairing treatment of being a Black worker as a security officer. We were very successful in that campaign. We partnered with the Los Angeles Black Workers Center at the time, and we created a partnership that enabled through these negotiations for those in the community, our community partners, a pipeline to become security officers if they so choose. It had never been done in the country. We were the first folks to do it here in Los Angeles. And so through that partnership, we have been in connection with the Los Angeles Black Worker Center ever since. It was an historic win for security officers, and it created a pathway for those to become a security officer. The one thing I would like to just be very honest with folks on this Zoom about is the kind of negative connotation of what it means to be a security officer. First and foremost, let me just say and respectfully ask that when you talk about folks who do security work, I would ask that you not call them security guards because it has a negative connotation, but security officers because we want to present a positive image of what it means to do this work. These security officers deal with a lot of different things that you have no idea. In the transient, homeless like population, folks get attacked, they get spit on, attempted stabbings, they get hurt, and they deal with this every single day, right? Every day, right? And so when you talk about security guard, it has a negative connotation. We're trying to professionalize this industry by changing the title, which I will respectfully ask that folks say security officer. And these are the folks who not only protect the people who are coming in and out of these facilities, these are also the folks that protect the facility itself. These are multi-billion-dollar properties, and they're responsible for ensuring the safety of every single person that comes in and out of those buildings. And so these security officers have worked over the years to improve this standard. I'm very proud of the work that we've done with this in the security industry and making sure that not only are these standards are continue to rise, but also that Black jobs seems to be at the forefront. So just all in all, looking just to sum it up for you all, from 2008, when they started at $10.50, which was a huge win at the time, up until today, we have security officers that's making 26, $27 an hour, right? And we're up for negotiations this year. We will be negotiating with the employers. If you are an armed security officer, you make an additional $5 an hour, right? Not all officers are armed. A lot of folks are more like, I would say, more in the customer service type of category. But for those of you where clients do deem for armed services, that's an additional compensation for that. It requires additional training, but there's also additional um, compensation for it. And so I want to conclude with just talking about what it means to not only do this work, but how you can become a security officer, right? And so the security industry here in California is regulated by a state agency, which is in short called BSIS, which is the Bureau for Security and Investigative Services in California. This is the group that kind of oversees all of the regulatory processes to become a security officer. Let me just run down a couple of bullet points for you all to make sure that you understand what it would take if you would like to become a security officer. First and foremost, this is a heavily regulated industry. I know that some folks don't understand that, but it is. If you're looking to become a security officer, you need to have a clean background, no record, right? If you have a serious record of some blemishes on your record, it would be very challenging, if not impossible, in order for you to become a security officer in California, right? Secondly, it is required for you to earn a guard card. This is one of maybe 6 states, I believe, in the country that requires a guard card. In order to achieve a guard card, it requires 40 hours of training for multiple categories that is directly related to the security industry. One, how to provide customer service, de-escalation, identifying suspicious packages, a baton, all of these sorts of things. There's different categories that you must take in order to successfully attain your guard card. Again, that is regulated by BSIS. Once you have completed those 40 hours, you will then earn your guard card, which would allow for you to apply for employment either in the private sector or the public sector, right? To become a security officer. We represents a majority in the private sector, but we also have public sector security officers that work in county, state, municipal, and other sorts of facilities. The guard card is required, I believe, every year. You have to renew it in order to be in good standing to continue your status. And as long as you're in good status, you will continue to earn your card. You don't have to take the 40 hours, but there's a renewal process that allows for you to renew every year. In addition to that, if you start out as an unarmed security officer and decide that you would like to become an armed security officer, you can do that. You just have to take the required courses in order to be able to utilize a weapon as a security officer. And so, I just want to make sure that the family tonight kind of understands that there are jobs here for security officers. I understand that there are some tight regulations here, but we'd like to promote this as much as possible because, as again, most of these
This is
jobs are held by
the
Black
quickest way to
folks.
go from
Um,
AI beginner to AI fluent.
and so we want to make sure that folks on this Zoom tonight understand and have, if there's interest, be able to, to go down the path of becoming a security officer. And look, this year we're going to be embarking on our contract campaign to further improve the standards of security officers. One of the things that we hear more than anything right now is what's happening in the current political environment, right? Where we've had, if you all recall, back in June of last year, we were dealing with, we were the first city that kind of dealt with these ICE raids here in Los Angeles, and you can imagine being a security officer in these buildings when you have folks rolling up with masks on, vests, weapons, coming into the building asking for whoever, right? And you're sitting there as a security officer with a job to do, trying to figure out like how do you engage here, right? And so it was a pretty tough time for a lot of our members with that happening last June. But I think, just to be honest with everyone here, Los Angeles was a place, as you all saw, that pushed back. And like everyone has a job to do, we understand, but it's how you treat folks, right? Folks should be treated with dignity. Folks should be treated with respect. And what we've been seeing, which I think is the grave concern of a lot of us here, is that is not happening, right? It didn't happen here as it should have in Los Angeles, and we've seen what's been happening over the course of the last 9 to 10 months here in this country. And so we want to make sure that you all kind of have the full scope of what it means to be a security officer, understanding what the requirements are, knowing and appreciating the work that has to happen. And to make sure that you all have that information, I would ask that we go to the next slide, so that we can provide information for folks. Go to the next one where the information is. If folks are, I'm sorry, the next one. Okay, okay, here we go. Yeah. So you all could can reach out. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. You all can reach out to us, and you can find information on security. Also, if there's further information that you would like to have on the regulatory process, you can reach out to the state agency. I can provide the information to you if you email me, if there's any interest in the security industry. And then the last thing that I would just like to close with is that I think that when we talk about everything that is happening in the world over the past decade or so, the security industry is a growing industry. It has been growing steadily over the past 20 years or so. So basically since 9/11, right? The tragic incident that happened with the attacks here in this country, the need and desire for security has increased. It is one of the fastest growing industries in this country. But I want to be completely honest with folks. While a lot of folks have like this kind of subdued or negative kind of connotation of security officers, things like rental cop or security guards, or you don't have arresting authority. I would just respectfully ask that you rethink that. These are folks who go to work every single day, like many of us, and they just want to go do their job and get home to their families. Most folks are able to do that. Some of them are not able to do that. We've had security officers that have dealt with all of the elements of what it means to live in this world. And it takes a toll on you. And so I would just ask respectfully that each and every one of you, when you see or know or interact with any security officer, whether they're in the union or not, that you kind of think a little bit about what is required and expected of them to do the work that they do, right? We as a union want to make sure that this industry has upward mobility, that is professional, and that is safe, right? That is our main goal here. And so I would just ask and reach out to each and every one of you to keep that in mind whenever you think about or interact with any security officers. I can't tell you how many conversations that I've had with many of our members around how people view them. Like, like, hey, I was trying to help this woman and, she got nasty with me because she didn't want to hear what I was trying to explain to her. And I'm just trying to do my job. We hear that stuff all the time, hearing stories around what it means for them to do their work. So I just want to share that with you all, ask that you take that in consideration, and looking forward to hearing from any of you all on the Zoom tonight. If you're interested in becoming a security officer, any way that I can be of help, I'll be more than happy to assist. Thank you all for all of the work. And if you look in the chat, it has like all of our offices up and down the state. We have 6 offices where the majority of where our members work. And so feel free to contact us, or you can contact me at the email that's on your screen. So thank you all very much. Thank you for being here.
Ooh, thank you so much, Anton, for sharing. That was so insightful. And you also taught me something in this as well. So that's why I also love this space, because although we're in this work, we're never above it. And there's always opportunities to learn more, because I'm like, oh, definitely will not say security guard. I never pretty much said it anyways, but like, yeah, I'm like, now I know that. Thank you so much. Like so much for coming in here and just sharing all of that. Everyone, like Anton said, we'll have a moment at the end for breakout group discussions, and we'll have a Q&A session. So there will be time to ask him any questions as it relates to inquiry for becoming a security officer. And so we got all of the information right there in the chat, his email, phone numbers, all of the offices. And so we definitely will make space moving forward for you to engage with Anton and our next presenter that I'll be introducing here in a second. So one more time, thank you, Anton. And yeah, Melissa, go ahead. Let's keep us moving. Let's go ahead, keep us moving. All right, before I make the introduction for our next presenter, we are under a lot of surveillance right now. We have a lot of violence and just a lot of negative energy pointed towards Black bodies right now, especially in the state of California. And so, with this education space, we have had conversations over the last couple months about, like, of course, we have to facilitate workers' rights education. We have to provide resources um, as it relates to worker rights. And of course, with this iteration of Echo Black Voices, we made a promise and a vow to provide pathway options and get some connectivity happening between our Black Worker Center's membership base, and also getting them connected to different pathway options that are out there. But with the current administration and the state violence that we're facing, particularly on Black bodies, I was like, y'all, we have to make space for a lot of the current events that are happening. And so we have decided to move forward with this space, not only being a space for workers' rights education and just pathway programming, but moving forward, we will also make space to have experts here, our Black expert leaders in the community come out and talk about a lot of the current events that is happening because it would just be remiss of myself, of all the organizers in our ecosystem that we don't make space for that. And we're starting tonight in the new year. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Nana, who is the executive director of Baji. Baji is the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. So, Nana, come in here and do your thing and shake up this room in this place.
I don't know about the shaking. We're gonna do something. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and was really interesting to hear what Anton was talking about, particularly when he was talking about the invasion of the body snatchers, as we call it, and the impact on workers of that, right? Because that has an impact that, of course, is something that our community feels. And when I say our community, talking about Black folk and talking about Black folk regardless of citizenship. Yes, my name is Nana Jumphy, and my pronouns are she, her, Wonu in the Tree language of Ghana, where my parents and rest of my family was born. Me and my siblings were born here in the United States, but like a Toyota made in Kansas, we are still Ghanaian and also very much a part of this fabric as Black people who have been living here our whole lives. I am the executive director of the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. Most of you, if you know us as Baji. We are going to be 20 years old in April. We were born in Oakland from a crew of Black diasporic folks. So there was Reverend Tim Lawson, who is related to Reverend Jim Lawson, revered, both of them, civil rights leaders, peace be unto them. Gerald Lenoir, African American brother from Louisiana, who is up in the Bay Area, and I'm an elder who has done so much work bridging our communities, right? Bridging the communities that here, African Americans, with Black immigrants, folks like Reverend Kelvin Sauls, who comes out of the anti apartheid movement, South African, folks from Haiti and other parts of the Caribbean came together in 2006 and said, what can we do? There's this whole conversation happening about immigration, but that conversation has nothing to do with Black people. In that conversation, all the Black people are African American, and all the immigrants are basically Latino, Latinx, Latine. And so the issues that Black immigrants face, our experiences are not being included, and the immigration conversation is not being talked about as a racial justice issue, even though it clearly is, right? We do not see them rounding up the 100,000 white Irish undocumented people in this country. We do not see them rounding up the Ukrainians that they ended TPS for. We see clearly that who they're targeting are Black folks, are brown folks, Asian folks, indigenous folks, including Native Americans, right? So it's like regardless of citizenship, regardless of whether the people are so-called committed crimes or had contact with law enforcement, regardless of whether they're documented or not, right? And so that is the work that we focus on with Baji. We do it with organizing, with legal and policy advocacy. We do some direct legal representation for Black migrants. We do it with our research and reports. We have a State of Black Immigrant Report. We did the first one in 2016, did one in California in 2018, and just started a data portal that you can go to, which we did with the Equity Research Institute over at USC. So you can look up specific information on Black immigrants. I will tell you that Black immigrants, either foreign born like my parents or born here like me, are one out of every four Black people in LA County, one out of every five, more or less, in the state of California, which is a big chunk, right? It's not anything small. And that some of us are hidden in plain sight, like the Nipsey Hussles, peace be unto him, of this world, the brothers over at Earl's Grill, right, who are from Mother hails from Trinidad, and so many others that are right here. We're right here amongst you. Some of us got names like Nana Jumpy, and some of us got names like James Earl, but we are here, part of the community and with the community. And the work that we do that work, which includes narrative building and civic engagement, so that we can improve the conditions of Black people, again, generally in this country, by advancing racial justice and immigrant rights. And we are looking and seeing what's going on now. We're seeing how really the conversation about immigration started off, and immigration enforcement in particular, started off a conversation that was clearly race based, including Black immigrants, and somehow now has become not race based, right? And the focus now is on sort of observers, mainly white observers, who, and peace be unto them, have a few in Minnesota that have lost their lives. And we think it's really important that we understand, how did we get here? I'm not going to start singing, but how did we get here, right? We got here because of what has been ignored, because of what has been dismissed in terms of what has happened to Black people. And so when we hear our folks, be they Black American or Black immigrant, raising our hands saying, yeah, we know about this. This is not new to us. Welcome to our world. There's something about the skipping over what was happening with us that now creates the situation we're in now. And so what we've done as Bajan, we just launched it today, but I think it's good to talk about because it'll help, hopefully percolate some things in people's minds. I live in Los Angeles. When the invasions happened in June, we looked at what was happening and we said, how do we address these invasions? There's a lot of pieces of immigration that are terrible, okay? There's a ban of 75 countries, most of them are majority Black countries. There's, bonds that you have to pay now in order to come into this country, on top of all the difficulties that already existed if you're coming from the Caribbean, Africa, parts of Central America and South America, Asia. So we know there's horrible, terrible things that have happened and been happening. But these invasions are something particular, right? The way that they have come in, the way that they have taken the worst abuses of policing and have made that like the policy and procedures manual. That's how they operate. It's not an aberration, it's the way they operate all the time. That has made this really critical and made it clear to us that we're going to have to get together to make it stop. And that if we don't make it stop, that all it's going to do is spread until this regime has the taxpayer funded, private, authoritarian, racist, domestic army, right, that it wants to have in order to cage us, in order to surveil us, in order to disappear us. And when I say us, I mean all of us. They are attacking birthright citizenship for a reason. And so it's something that we all need to be concerned about, but Black people especially. We have a program or a framework that we are sharing. And again, we just launched this today, called Stop Taking Our People. And the acronym for that is STOP, right? It's a STOP framework. And that framework is not just a framework, it's a set of values, it's a warning, and it's an invitation. It's a framework for making meaning of what it is we're seeing right now. How are we ending up in a situation in which these folks can do whatever they want, get told they have absolute immunity, and just kill people, literally shoot them in the face, kill them 10 times on the ground? Like, how are we in this place right now? Stop helps us to understand that. It's a set of values that requires us to acknowledge and center the anti Black roots of all enforcement in this country, whether that be immigration enforcement or criminal law enforcement. The first people excluded from this country were not the Chinese, where they were the Haitians who had freed themselves. And once free, it turned around and said, yeah, we want to come to the United States. We want to travel like everyone else. And the US said, ha ha, hell, that's not going to happen. We still have chattel slavery here. Y'all got yourself free. We're not going to let that occur. But most people don't know that. They think the Chinese Exclusion Act is the first, right? And so the roots of the immigration enforcement system is in starting with those Haitians that were excluded, Haitians being held in the 90s in Guantanamo Bay, Haitians being held in detention camps. This is what then combined up with what we already know about the anti Black roots of the criminal punishment system to then between the crime bill of 94 and the immigration crime bill of 96 create this blow up of mass incarceration that has us in a situation in which the immigration enforcement side, which everyone's trying to act as like separate, right, is actually a different part of the same machine that is the criminal punishment side, right? It's all under enforcement. So there's just two sides of the same coin, two different parts of the same machine. And it's a machine that is powered by anti Blackness, that is fueled by fear, and that is fueled by greed. We have a warning that is saying, hey, because we've dismissed what has happened to Black people, in particular African Americans, and what enforcement and violence, police violence has meant in that context. Now we see it being pulled into the immigration enforcement context, and the immigration enforcement piece is being used as the tip of the spear to just open up the police state. So now ICE is looking at our phones. ICE has the capacity, is working with TSA. ICE is in our Social Security files. ICE is in our Medicaid file. All of this is, they're just collecting information on all of us. They're not distinguishing, right? And so it opens the police state up more in such a fast way that so many people were not expecting. But that happened because when they killed our brother Ezel right here, when they killed our brother Africa right here, right? When they killed Breonna Taylor, when they killed Sandra, like there was not the movement, the change that we needed. And so they're taking that same pattern and bringing it now into the immigration enforcement system that they're using against us all. And then finally, the stop framework is an invitation. It's an invitation for us to shift the way that we think about immigration enforcement, to understand it's not just ICE, it's the FBI, it's the Homeland Security investigators, it's the DA, it's the ATF. They got IRS police out here, postal police out here, and of course, the mass mercenaries who we don't know where the heck they came from. We call them collectively the body snatchers that are working together. So we need to shift our frame from abolish ICE will solve our problems to understanding that we actually have to do a deeper uprooting of the system unless we look up and find that we're all caught up in it. There's a central premise that STOP talks about, and that central premise is that immigration enforcement and criminal punishment enforcement are actually the same. They're working together, and that in order to attack this issue with immigration enforcement, that we're going to have to dismantle the enforcement systems that exist now. You don't start off violating people, then you're best friends. We can't have frenemies with guns, weapons, drones, surveillance, cages. Either they're cool with us or they're not, and we know they're not. So what is the way that we're able to actually attack the entire system pillar by pillar, because there's pillars that hold these systems up? And so we looked at the recent invasions of the body snatchers, ICE, CBP, the federal agents, and the mass mercenaries, and we said, hey, how do we attack the invasions themselves? And we thought about it and said, these body snatchers, unlike the ones in the movie from 900 years ago, they're not teleporting here and they don't teleport home. They come here and they stay here, right? And when they stay here, where are they staying? Because they're not bringing people that are local. They're bringing people from other places, as we know. We saw that here in Los Angeles, and that's what's happening all over the country. And so they've got to stay places. They've got to eat places. They depend on hospitality. And we decided we must make it inhospitable for them. And so we started a campaign called Break the Ice Machine. And Break the Ice Machine is about attacking the hotel pillar. That's what it's about, attacking the hotel pillar. This is where these folks sleep. This is where they sit at the bar. This is where they have their meetings, where they're planning how they're gathering and going to snatch our bodies. And in particular, we're calling for commercial pressure and boycotts of Hilton. Why Hilton? Because they actually punished their franchises who have said they don't want the body snatchers. Because they've actually fired workers who have said, I don't feel comfortable. They've filed formal complaints across this country saying, I don't feel comfortable working with these. They don't call them body snatchers, I do. And they've been punished by Hilton for that. They've been, punished because they've gone on their social media and talked about how they didn't feel comfortable at work, told they need to erase it, they need to take it off. This is Hilton telling them that. People who have free speech rights, right, who are working for them, they expect them to just serve the body snatchers in silence. And so we launched today with our partners, which include the Movement for Black Lives, which include Rising Majority, which include Mayday Strong, which include Jewish Voices for Peace, which include Freedom for Immigrants. It's a very wide group. There's 100 groups and still counting because we just launched today. Every time I look, I say the number is going higher of people who have decided, and organizations, excuse me, who've decided that they are going to join us in this boycott of Hilton. And then we also have individuals we're asking to sign a pledge. You can learn more about all of this by going to our website, which also just launched today. It's www.wemakethemstop.org, and I'm sure that's going to be in the chat. You can go there. More information and detail is there. You'll see also the pledges there. We need as many folks as possible. If you have retreats you're about to do, meetings, convenings, don't go to Hilton. All over this country, Hilton is taking care of the body snatchers that are going to turn around and take care of us if we're not ready. Thank you so very much.
Wow. Yeah. That Thank you so much, Nana. That is so much like to process. And I know like you gave a similar, if not like the same kind of presentation this morning. So I really am grateful for you being in this space and sharing this pledge and sharing all of these like resources with us because like this is a matter that needs urgent response right now, and we have to be accountable for our community. And so when I'm saying I want to make this space about all things that are happening to Black folks right now, especially as it relates to this state and this country, it's like, wow, like, thank you so much.
Sorry, let me
Go
just
ahead,
say one thing, 'cause I feel bad not saying it. I must say it.
please.
Let's, just remembering and in the name of Keith Porter Jr., right, who was killed by an off duty body snatcher who should never even have approached him, spoken with him. But because these folks are being told they can do what they want and they have cover, they feel they can. And who is always going to be disproportionately hit is us, right? Always. Whether it be in Minnesota, whether it be in LA, whether it be in Maine, whether it be in Memphis, wherever we are the people that are going to suffer in silence. They will not be talking about us on CNN as they do others. So it's really important that we keep us safe. That's it. Sorry. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thank you. Ted, I see your hand is raised. Do you want to share real quick and then we'll get right into our breakout groups discussion to keep this conversation going?
Yeah, I wanted her to ask her a question because I'm part of the Save America movement and Poor People's Campaign. They had a Liberty van, and we go around as a clergy, a lawyer, and a film crew, and we film in ICE in the Inland Empire. Have she heard about that? And is there any resources that I can get from her or give her that can get her involved with what's going on? Because it's fully funded. The Liberty Van is three of them.
Please get in touch with us. We have an Inland Empire organizer. You can
Okay.
reach her at ava@baji.org. I'll put it in the chat. And she is our Inland Empire organizer, and I'm sure she would love to hear more about that.
Okay, cool.
And we have
Okay,
resources. We have stuff that know your rights in different languages and all kinds of stuff. So yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Thank
Okay, thank you. Perfect, perfect. Well, let's keep the momentum going. And we dropped all of those resources that Nana shared off in the chat, and then we can repost them as needed. But I want to make way for conversation for you all to like facilitate amongst each other. So let's stay with this energy. So before going into breakout groups, we have a few questions that we want you guys to like think about, share with each other. Um, so given what's happening right now with all the ICE activity and all of the state sanctioned violence that we're seeing show up, like think about ways like how you can show up and like right now, like as who you are, where you are, like how can you show up? And these three questions, we'll put them in a chat, but we can also probably flash them on the screen when you go out into your breakout groups. But the questions are, what does protection, solidarity, and care for Black communities look like in this moment? What can we do proactively, not just reactively? And individually and collectively, how do we protect Black people, reduce harm, and build lasting forms of safety in the places we live, work, and organize? So Melissa is going to start putting together breakout groups. It looks like we have like 26, maybe 27 people on the call, Melissa. So maybe five groups of five, six, or something like that. Six groups of five, or but
Mama stuff.
what will happen is we'll put you all in the breakout group discussions. You'll have approximately like 10 to like 13 minutes for discussion, and then coming out of the breakout groups, we'll give 5 minutes for questions and just feedback, report back. So maybe a few people will take. Also, be mindful that this is also an opportunity. If you had questions about the security presentation as well, you can ask those questions to Anton. But be mindful that after the call, we'll stay behind for a few minutes to answer all questions, whether it's in regards to Nana presentation or in regards to Anton's presentation with security.
Okay, you should see the invitation to join your group, probably on the bottom of your screen. So click to enter your group. Again, you'll be discussing these questions here. Darren, will you pause recording?
Yeah, I can do that. People are coming.
I heard the tail end of that, Darren. So
Oh,
just
yeah, sorry. Yeah.
no, you're good. You're good. It's just I was like, that's so funny.
I'm like, we can't record that now. We can't
Yeah, you
record that
can't record
conversation.
that.
Maybe another
Yeah.
What
conversation
y'all
about
say?
bad things.
I'm the one you want to know.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for participating in the conversation. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And shout out literally because I was calling out all of like our partners in the room, but like seeing all y'all names and faces, I'm like, y'all really came out tonight. I appreciate that. But let's keep some of that energy and momentum going before we close out tonight. We want to just hear some of the discussions that kind of came from the questions that were presented to you all. So we'll take like a few people. And again, remember, you can share what you discussed in the group, but also if you have questions for Anton, this is the opportunity and time. But don't stress out too much because we're gonna stay back after the call is done, just in case people want to actually talk to Anton or engage a little more with Nana before we close out officially. So, anybody up for sharing? Also, be mindful of sensitive things that were shared too, as well. I do want to say that too. Y'all don't got no plans?
Okay, I'm going to speak even though I shouldn't be speaking, but I was in the breakout room, so here we go. And sorry that my camera is not on. I got to save my eyes. I've been on cameras all day. So, I was in the room with Kira and Michael, and we are talking about what it is, the ideas people had about what we could do together. And so we talked a lot about being more physically together, like community gatherings, places where we can get to know each other, and like increasing the unity and the bonds between each other before something happens, as opposed to what sometimes happens is like something terrible happens and then people come out and are in that communal mood. But how to, making sure we have community gatherings, which we used to have so much more of, having community healing spaces where people can come through, you know what I mean, and shake it off, work it out, yoga it, whatever it is, that we need to do together, to be able to heal and to connect. And people talked about passing recipes, like intergenerational recipe passing, both from older folks that have done certain things and can remember, even like the block parties that you didn't have to put a permit in with the city to do, etc. But then also younger folks passing recipes, also, about ways that folks are doing that in-person connection now. And I'll stop there.
I wanted to chime in here, really quick. I'm headed home, but I did put it in the chat as well on that topic of having spaces and community events and gatherings where we can meet and we can have community, especially in the sphere of staying educated and informed on what's going on. IABWC is putting together a coalition to where we're building out policies that specifically support our Black communities, our Black workers, and especially protections around all of the immigration issues happening now too. So if you are interested, we're very early stages, so you'd be able to have a lot of input on what policies to campaign on, what movements to make. And if you're interested, just put your name, email, chat org, or your org and your phone number in the chat, and I'll be reaching out within the next couple months to get that set up. We're planning to have an in-person meeting sometime before June. So it would be a lot of the planning for that as well. And we could definitely form this sort of space within that event as well.
I love that.
I'd like to say something about our group. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So what we've been doing in Ontario for uh, the last year or so, um, we've had Know Your Rights meetings that invite everyone to come and find out what their rights are, dealing with ICE, and we've um, uh, uh, gotten little cards, little red cards that we give to people saying, if you stop by ICE, this is what you do, and this is what you need to do, and etc. And not only we had them with the Zoom, but we have had them in person. And so we've had a No Kings March that we sponsored. The Ontario Futures Alliance did in a couple of months ago in Ontario for the first. And then we've had two prayer vigils last Friday and this last Sunday, where we invited everybody out. And it was I was shocked because it was a lot of African Americans who came, but a lot of white people. And in my speech, I told them that this is something that the Black and brown community, especially the Black community, has been dealing with the police anyway. And so God's sovereignty is fair, but he can use situations like this to bring forth a change in the narrative, because when they kill two white folk and people are upset, that should have been the same way that you upset when unarmed black men get killed. So let's use this opportunity to continue to work together in an intersectionality and work together. And so it was positive. The white people came up and said, "I'm glad you said that." And so we're continuing to educate people because of the fact that they are picking up black folks now. And I also told them in our training that once the Supreme Court ruled on the 14th Amendment birthright, then things are going to get worse for black people. So we need to educate ourselves and know what our rights are so that we can come together and build power now before it gets worse.
That's real. That's so real. And I appreciate all of you for sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ted, for using your voice so powerfully in that space.
Yeah, no. And like I actually Melissa and myself we've been over here taking notes and I see like the through line and the connection like in our note taking. So I really appreciate that. Denise, did you I saw somebody just put a hand up. We'll take one more before we move on. Did somebody put their hand up? Denise, did you want to speak or was that by accident?
Hello. No, it was an accident. Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Nope. Can you hear me? Oh, you can?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm on my phone and it was doing crazy things. Anyway, my name is Denise Sterling King. I was in the breakout room with Janelle and Sylvia. This is my first time on, and I didn't know about your organization, but I'm glad I do. And so myself and two friends of mine, we started a political PAC in what was it, 2020. We started a political PAC in the Inland Empire where we assist African Americans who are running for political office. And so I didn't get to talk about it in the breakout room, but I was interested in finding out about your organization, but I'm concerned about our vote and that we do get out and vote and how important our vote is and that we need to stop sitting on the couch. And so what we felt out here was that what was happening is that Black people that were running for political office out here, they didn't have the funds to start. So we started this organization where we give them seed money to start their campaigns. We stuff envelopes, knock on doors, do call banking in the whole nine. So my thing is vote, vote, vote. Okay. That's, our forefathers and mothers fought for, died and bled for us to be able to vote. And it's a shame that so many of us, I don't mean to be preaching tonight, but that so many of us sit down on the couch and don't go out and vote. So vote, vote, vote. And I'll be sharing my information with you. It's called Neighbors United of the Inland Empire. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Danelle and Sylvia, for your information. I'm going to put my hand down, but like I said, some problems, so I'm not saying anything else.
You're fine. You're fine. We
Thank
could
you.
if you don't find it, we can put it down for you.
Yardina
Okay.
has their hand up. Yardina.
Yardina, we'll say one more. Yardina, go
Hi.
ahead.
Yes, I'll make it quick. Hello to everyone, especially hello to Anton. I actually had a question. If you can delve a little bit deeper into it briefly, it's about all the advertisement we're now seeing when we think about security and how that has brought economic stability to our community, and now the next wave of cybersecurity. We know that investment in defense. We've all seen the budget for DHS, ICE. Um, I I feel, and hearing your testimony and share, there may be like an unspoken assumption that a Black police officer will be a corroborator if ICE hits the scene, right? So that's, in my opinion, first the number one form of activism. When a Black person says, "No, I'm not in cahoots with you. Um, I'm not complicit in what you're doing," and the cybersecurity aspect of it. So I'm trying to think about what that means for our community. How, whether you be Black American, Black immigrant, our high representation in security, the move towards cybersecurity, and the deep investment of more dollars that are going to be coming to the security sector, like you were saying, and also these assumptions of corroboration because you're in a uniform, that you're with the uniform, and what they're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Ardina. I think that the security industry is kind of going through what I would call like a transition at the moment. Specifically, when you talk about a couple of things that have taken place over the last couple of years. When we talk about physical patrol and presence of security, if you all recall, we had this whole thing that was happening like during the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic around a smash and grab, right? That was something that was huge that was happening across the country. So the physical presence of security was paramount at that time, right? And as we start transitioning to technological advances, I think that there's two absolutes that are true, that could conflict with some folks regarding the security industry. On one hand, cybersecurity is starting to become more prevalent because one, it removes the risk of physical risk from security officers, right? To be able to observe and report through different technological advances like cameras, detects, and things like that. So that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it too is that impacts jobs. Right. So if you don't have a physical presence and if you're going to be relying on cameras, that means that the technology, folks are going to be relying more on the technology. And one of the things that we talked about in the union is that we're not, I think we've learned a thing or two when we talk about technology. Technology does not go backwards. It never has. It always goes forward. So fighting the advancements in any industry, regardless of what it is, and I'm giving my opinion here. I don't think that's the way to go because none of us are going to go back to watching VCRs. We're not going to have pagers. We're not going to go back to a rotary phone. It just doesn't work that way, right? It's going to advance. And so what we focus on in a union is how do we prepare people to be a part of the new age in this industry? How do you train them? How do you compensate them? How do you be the folks who are involved with the advancement versus fighting the technology? And so it's kind of like this yin and yang in our industry when we talk about cybersecurity. And another thing just that I would just like to share in short around that is, folks, when you talk about security, like securing your identity, even though we're talking about security presence and, when we talk about our industry, but it's also important, that's critical too, because we've had several of our members that talked about people who are trying to enter different facilities with fake IDs. And things of that nature to try to access any given sort of property. So, I think that when we talk about the advancements in this industry, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's remote or what have you, it's something that we think about all the time. But I'm more in favor of figuring out how to prepare our folks and train them versus fighting the advancements of what's taking place in the industries.
Thank you, Anton.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. Thank you all. This has been a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of like information sharing. So I'm so appreciative to everybody in the room. But before we wrap up, I just want to leave you all with a few things. Definitely, especially if you're new on the call, like tap in with us. Here is our workers' rights resource guide. This was created last year in collaboration with all of our partners, this is a beacon right here, like a beacon of hope for all of our Black folks, as far as relation to how to file a claim, the different type of workplace violations that Black folks like are experiencing and are exposed to. You can go through this. There's a table of contents there. It tells you who to reach out to. It walks you through the process. So definitely use this and share this out with your orgs, with your community. Use it. And also use it too because Melissa and the team worked very hard on it, making it pretty and amazing. But we made it last year. We're still using it this year. So definitely tap in with us in that way. Also, of course, our work is intentional in everything that we do. So if you're new on the call, Denise, I know you said you're in the Inland Empire area. Guess what? We have a Black Worker Center in Inland Empire. So get connected to your center and be in community, get into the work with us. And also look at all of our other series that we have. We did a whole iteration of CWAP 4.0, which was all workers' rights based, specifically on different workplace violations that we went through every month. This year's Pathways, and you can find those all on our website and you can find them on our YouTube as well. And what Melissa was just sharing was a geo map of literally all of the worker centers and all of our partners. So you can literally find out all about us on our page. Just play around with it. And if you can't find it, you can find me or Melissa. Well, me, because we only got Melissa for so long. But yes, yeah, tap in with us. This is another page that has all of our Echo Black Voices campaign stuff on here. So all the series dates, all of the videos, you can check it out. But yeah. So come see us again. Come be in community with us again, family. Our next Edu series will take place on the 25th of next month, and we're gonna do it big, big, big because it is what Black History Month, and we are what Black, and what we are is beautiful and everything and above. So we will be seeing you all again. Please, please show up. Be on the lookout. If you're not on our mailing list, leave your emails here in the chat so we can make sure to add you to our mailing list for future EduSeries updates and all other events related to our ecosystem and our other Black Worker Centers and Black-led organizations events. We'll be sharing all of that out on our mailing list. So yes, y'all, this has been lovely. I can't believe we're back again. And I'm so happy to be back with you all, family. And we got a lot of work to do, but we gonna do this together and we gonna hold each other up and we gonna do it with love in our heart forever and always. So thank you so much. This concludes the call. Shout out again to Anton. And shout out again to Nana and all of the partners and everybody who makes this happen for us. We love y'all. Again, if you have any questions as it relates to the security presentation or to the presentation that was led by Nana and the body snatchers, like stay behind. We'll be on the call for a few minutes before actually closing out.